Among the zombies, seeing them standing still and motionless, I couldn't help but feel strange. Why didn't they attack me? A zombie started walking towards him. The system sounded a dangerous red warning of the appearance of the Zombie King. His gender was Yin male, 599 Yin years old. The combat level is 9, a reminder that the zombie's combat level is equal to the King of Hell. Please choose whether to fight or not. Diu Bin immediately pressed the buy button, and the Zombie King sped up and approached him. He waved his hand and made a punch, shouting, "Growl," and a loud bang rang out. Diu Bin was punched by them, pushed hard and fell backwards, his hands clasped in front of him, constantly exclaiming, "How strong!" He gritted his teeth in surprise and opened his eyes wide, his nose bleeding. Diu Bin clicked buy Devil's Wing on the system board. He also bought Kim Chung porridge. Suddenly, large glowing wings appeared on his back, and he flew up high, screaming loudly. Diu Bin launched golden porridge towards the Zombie King. The golden porridge fell towards the Zombie King, completely trapping it inside with a bang. Diu Bin gently landed on the ground. He used his sleeve to wipe away the blood on his nose, his face filled with tension. With just 2 moves he could defeat the power of the King of Hell. This Zombie King is really strong. I wonder if this golden porridge can do any business? Suddenly there were loud rumbling sounds. Other zombies were surrounding Kim Chung Chao. Diu Bin was startled and felt something was wrong. They kept biting into the porridge needle, their mouths wheezing and slowly flowing out. In the hut, Master Lu wondered if the Zombie King intended to let the zombies use the poison in his body to neutralize the golden porridge, but the cemetery had been deserted for many years, so he was afraid there wouldn't be enough zombies to use. Gun Koi Lak smiled, not worrying about what he saw. A zombie girl with 2 pigtails on her head, wearing a red outfit, was walking forward step by step. Gun Koi Lak explained that the little devil was the son of the Zombie King. If he died, the Zombie King would not forgive Diu Bin. Master Lu was startled and thought, indeed Gun Koi Lak still has this trick. Seeing her father, the little zombie smiled innocently and ran towards him with both hands out. While running, the little zombie girl kept calling out, "Ah! Eh!" The Zombie King was startled to see his daughter, surrounded by zombies lying on the ground. The Zombie King loudly shouted, "Gao," continuously punching the golden porridge. Diu Bin touched his nose with his finger in surprise. Why is the Zombie King suddenly so aggressive? The Zombie King kept hitting the porridge needle, causing it to start making a cracking sound. There was a hoo 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 sound outside. Approaching Kim Chung porridge, the little girl said, "Eh, eh," and smiled brightly when she saw her father. The little girl smiled and jumped up, flying towards her father, constantly shouting, "Ah!" The Zombie King was startled and opened his mouth wide. All I could do was open my eyes wide and look at the little zombie girl who was still smiling innocently and flying closer to Kim Chung porridge. The little girl was about to touch the porridge needle when suddenly there was a spitting sound. The Zombie King saw that the girl was unharmed on his body. It turned out that Diu Bin had recovered the Kim Chung porridge. "Don't worry, I won't harm it." He shrunk the porridge needle in his hand and looked sinister, not harming it but trapping the 2 of them together. Hee. The Zombie King put her on the ground. The other zombies stood up one by one. Their mouths kept making the sound, growl growl. Diu Bin immediately raised Kim Chung porridge and shouted loudly, "King of Hell!" Kim Chung porridge went away. The King of Zombies and the other zombies all knelt to the ground noisily. Diu Bin was bewildered, not understanding anything. Suddenly, the little girl smiled and rushed to hug his leg. He smiled friendly, reached out and rubbed the girl's head, saying hello. The Zombie King worriedly said something to Diu Bin, "Ha ha 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 ha." He immediately hugged the little girl and carried her in his arms. Her hands clapped happily. He smiled and reassured her, "Don't worry, as long as you don't make things difficult for me, I won't hurt her." The Zombie King suddenly pulled out his fang from his mouth. He raised his hand high into the sky. A flock of black bats filled the sky. Diu Bin thought to himself, "What is going on?" A bat flew to drop a fang in his hand, and he suspected it was a tooth for himself. Liu Bin still couldn't help but mutter in surprise as he saw the Zombie King leading the girl and the zombies out of there one by one. At the hut, Master Lu said to Gun Koi Lak that his brother, the Corpse King, was gone again, but in his heart he chuckled, "Ha ha ha ha. Are you embarrassed now?" Gun Koi Lak replied to him unhappily. "Master Lu and we are in the same boat. If he doesn't die, you're no better than me." Master Lu turned around and walked away, raising his hand to greet Gun Koi Lak. "Ha ha ha. Don't worry brother. I've already called someone to bring his mother to Lu Kuang. If anything happens, Lu Kuang will bear the blame. Mr. Mac will not be found out." Gun Koi Lak looked at his back and snorted coldly. He ran after him and called Master Lu to wait for me, and Master Lu smiled. I thought to myself, the older the ginger, the spicier it gets. Let's go see the next show. After those words, the rest hut was quiet without a soul. Liu Bin is still standing and observing the Zombie King's fang. This tooth must have some benefit. Let's put it away for now. Now we have to find our mother. We can't delay any longer. Suddenly, the phone rang. Liu Bin's pocket vibrated and a voice rang out. He picked up the phone and said hello. What's wrong with him? His subordinate said my mother is at Lu Kuang's place. I'm done I know, and hang up. Liu Bin was really angry and muttered, Lu Kuang, I originally intended to spare your life, but if you want to die like this, you'll have to accept it. Liu Bin pulled out a yellow travel ticket and recited the magic passage to pass the heavens, the magic talisman of attainment. Scene changes to the underground front site west of the city. Tru Kai and his juniors were standing outside, seeing Liu Bin panting as he came. Little Liu family, are you running here? He was panting and replied, I'm fine. Liu Bin anxiously asked Kai family, did you say my mother was in an underground mansion? Tru Kai immediately nodded. When he said auntie was missing, I sent my subordinates to investigate and was sure it was true. Liu Bin fed with both hands in his pockets. He slowly walked to the door of the building. Boom, I got it. The two men guarding the door stood up to block him. The other guy stopped and did something. Liu Bin did not answer. He directly punched the two doormen into the distance, only having time to shout. Tru Kai waved his hand and ordered his juniors to break down the door. Immediately Tru Kai's juniors rushed up. Some kicked the door. Some used hammers to break the glass door. Tru Kai and Liu Bin entered inside. Tru Kai shouted loudly, get over here quickly. The first name, a trusted subordinate of Lu Kuang, spoke up about who he thought he was. He and two other juniors walked out pompously and arrogantly. It turned out to be Tru Kai. I advise you to get out before Kuang brother gets angry, otherwise you won't be able to escape alone. Tru Kai smiled and said to Liu Bin, little Liu family, we probably have to teach these random biting dogs a while. Liu Bin smiled and pointed his thumb up, I thought the same. He immediately clasped his hands together and made a cracking sound, slowly walked towards the thief, saying if he wanted to hand the person over himself, or let me beat him first before handing him over. Seeing his aura, the first guy started sweating in fear and backed away thinking, he's just a high school student, why is he so scary? He kept backing away but still kept his mouth shut. Do you know where this is? It's Kuang brothers' territory, don't come over here. Suddenly a voice rang out, I advise you to obediently listen to little Liu family. Liu Bin and the first guy were startled and turned towards that voice. The owner of that voice is Le Suyen, otherwise your brother Kuang will not survive. Liu Bin recognized her and immediately called to Miss Nun. Le Suyen came closer and rubbed his fingers on his cheek. Why don't you welcome him? I heard someone bullied you. So I came here specifically to help you. I'm a bit annoyed but still polite. Thank you, four ladies. At this time, a junior whispered into the head's ear. The big brother had changed. He asked what was going on. The junior said there were many tanks surrounding him out there. The first guy was startled and his face turned purple and scared. He turned to Le Suyen and said, the four girls just now are a personal grudge between us. It's not enough to use old Mac's relationship. She held the fan to answer him, whether or not to use it is not your turn to say. Two tanks roared through the wall and entered the room, causing dust to fly and rocks to scatter everywhere. The first guy trembled in fear and shouted loudly, this is a private house. What you guys are doing is illegal, True Kai said leisurely, putting his hands in his pockets. Oh, stop lying, we're all in the industry, why bring up the law? A foot came out of the tank, that's not right. Group leader Lang had one hand on his hip and the other holding up a red stamped directive. Of course we have to bring out the law. We received orders from our superiors to come here and deal with gangsters. Anyone who dares to get in our way will be punished according to the law. Le Suyen shook his index finger. Why can't you guys get along a little bit? Just use tricks if you show up. Jiu Bin smiled and looked at her, thanking Miss Nun for reminding me. My sister's tricks have been witnessed, now just leave it to me. Le Suyen crossed his arms in invitation. The prankster was so scared his whole body trembled and stammered, what are you going to do? Jiu Bin raised his knee and pushed hard, and the first man's stomach poked him, causing his mouth to vomit blood. The first guy is lying on the ground. You stomp on his back. Tell me, where is my mother? I won't say anything about that stubborn guy, even if I beat him to death. Jiu Bin continuously stepped on his back, he was speechless. You grabbed the first guy's head tightly, it would be too easy to beat him to death. If you don't say anything, I will let a tank run over you. Jiu Bin pulled the man's head to look at him, rolled his arms and then his legs. I will not let you die. You must live to see your limbs destroyed. Group leader Lang smiled and put his hands on his hips. Okay, little Jiu family, wherever you say the handle is, we will put it there. A soldier driving the remaining tank also said that the roll was accurate down to a millimeter, and he would absolutely not let him die before all his parts were rolled over. The prankster shook his head in fear. Don't, your mother really isn't here. Jiu Bin shouted loudly, where is my mother? Speaking quickly, the man knelt down on the ground and bowed his head to him. Kwang brother took her to the club in Dong Tan. He said that as long as there's that woman, you won't dare to cause trouble. Jiu Bin turned around. Fourth lady, I'll go first. Le Suyen immediately answered him. Tu Jiu family can rest assured. Just let me take care of this place. She walked towards the prankster. Tu Jiu family is gone. Now please call Lu Kwang. Saying, if something happens to Ant, his end will be like this money page. The prankster's whole body trembled and mumbled this money page. Le Suyen put her fan in front. She ordered me to break it, at the club in Dong Tan. In a VIP room, a voice rang out. Lu Kwang, since when are you so incompetent? The blonde old man has a negative opinion. Even just a kid has to be afraid, huh? Lu Kwang nervously explained. Everyone didn't know that Guy Jiu Bin was skilled in ghost magic. It was very difficult to solve. The blonde old man calmed him down. Don't worry, it's just yin and yang magic. If the centaur on both sides is pressed into the middle, they will die. At this moment, with a click, the door opened. The waiter came in carrying a plate. I'm sorry, boss, this is a letter that a young man gave you. Lu Kwang asked the waiter. He looked at the number on the letter. He replied, Sir. He said this is. Suddenly his head tilted. The waiter's head suddenly fell down. Everyone in the room saw this and were startled and scared. Murderous. Oh my God. The waiter rolled on the ground, still making a sound. Boss, this is a letter that a young man gave you. Lu Kwang angrily kicked the waiter's body down. Damn it, this is a paperman, it's soulless. He bent down to pick up the letter. Guys, that kid has a lot of tricks. Lu Kwang looked at the letter and was startled, his whole body trembling. The blonde old man asked him, Why are you saving me, brother? What is written in the letter? He held up the letter for everyone to see. There were no words, only a seal. Suddenly a voice came out. This is called the Demon King Seal. Can summon evil soldiers, command souls. The blonde old man and Lu Kwang looked around the room. Who said that? Is it that kid? Looking at the crowd of people still looking around the room searching. What's going on? Maybe this is its magic. Jiu Bin is hiding in the room smiling. A room full of evil people, using yin and yang to mark the relationship. To them, it was too reasonable. The windows opened at the same time. Black smoke flew into the room. The underworld soldiers were slowly entering. What was going on? What was it doing? An underworld soldier came in front of them. The old blonde man let out a whooshing sound. He recognized Tiu Chao. Tiu Chao's soldiers used both hands to strangle him. He immediately screamed, "Tiu Chao, let me go." Even though he was strangled, he was still stiff. Mouth, who told you not to give me your wife? It was because you were looking for your own death. Lu Kuang stood in the middle of the room and shouted, "Diu Bin, get over here for me. I know you're doing something evil." Diu Bin spoke up, "Lu Kuang, it seems you haven't heard this sentence." He stood in front of the group of underworld soldiers appearing behind Lu Kuang. It was a paradise that had no entrance, but a hell that had no entrance. Diu Bin and the underworld soldiers slowly walked towards Lu Kuang. Behind him was a girl. "Lu Kuang, do you remember Tran Tiu Thien?" He was remembering. Tran Tiu Thien was a call girl at Tun Hoang. He pointed at the girl. "Wait, I remember. Tran Tiu Thien, Tran Jia's two daughters. One named Tran Tiu Thien, one named Tran Tiu Van." Diu Bin gently touched Tran's shoulder. "Tiu Thien, go away. He's the person you want to attack. Go report him." She silently turned back to look at him. Lu Kuang raised the pistol forward and shouted, "Come, when you're alive, I'm not afraid of you. When you're dead, what's there to be afraid of? Pretending to be a ghost." He pulled the trigger and opened fire. The bullet hit Tran Tiu Thien. She immediately fell to the ground. Lu Kuang laughed happily. "I know you are a master of yin and yang. So I smeared the gun on the bullets. To deal with these evil demons. Ha." Diu Bin put his hands in his pockets. Smiling, "That's enough." Tran Tiu Thien lay face down on the floor. Suddenly her whole body moved slightly, raising her voice. She suddenly raised her face. Her face was strange with two large eye sockets. Half of her face had no skin left, revealing hideous veins. Tran Tiu Thien crawled quickly on all fours towards Lu Kuang, his mouth emitting wheezing sounds, making him startled. The curse escaped his mouth. He was scared and turned around to run. What could it be? Even the bullets could not kill him. Tran Tiu Thien crawled after him and called Lu Kuang. She opened her mouth full of sharp teeth and screamed loudly. The sound echoed throughout the room, causing Lu Kuang to cover his ears with his hands. It hurt so much. Suddenly a hand grabbed his shirt tightly. Two dark soldiers on both sides grabbed Lu Kuang's hands. He struggled. From behind, Tran Tiu Thien's hands hugged his neck. She tightened her arms around Lu Kuang's neck, making him unable to breathe, screaming. White eyes and mouth foaming at the mouth. A thick cloud of shoe smoke flew in, pushing Tran Tiu Thien back. Lu Kuang shouted loudly, his face still purple with fear. He quickly took a breath to regain his breath. A fat brown-haired guy holding 2 glasses of wine in his hand asked. "What's wrong, old brother Lu? What's wrong with you? Did you have a nightmare?" Lu Kuang was sweating, panting and replied, "Okay." The brown-haired guy gave Lu Kuang a glass of wine. His head suddenly fell to the ground while his voice was still coming out. "Let's drink the glass of wine first." Lu Kuang looked in surprise at the 2 people standing in front of him, their heads falling to the ground, still making sounds. "What's wrong, Lu Kuang? Come and drink." "That's right." The 2 heads fell at his feet, still smiling. "Let's drink, brother." Ha. 2 headless bodies slowly approached Lu Kuang, causing him to panic and step back in fear. "Don't come over here. Don't come over here." While stepping back, his heels retreated to the edge. A deep abyss. He panicked. What happened? Small pieces of rock fell from the edge of the cliff. Below the abyss were large and long sharp stakes rising up. Lu Kuang lost his footing and fell into the abyss. Ah! His body passed through a stake. Changing to the dark outdoor scene, Lu Kuang was startled and sat up on the ground, his hands rubbing all over his body. "Am I not dead yet? Why am I here?" The bright moonlight hung high in the sky, clearly illuminating the image of Diu Bin slowly walking towards Lu Kuang. "I ask you, where is my mother?" He was startled and looked up to call Lu Kuang. Tri Kai smiled. "What's wrong? Lu Kuang, you were so surprised when you saw the little Diu family. You were thinking about rescuing the soldiers. So I have to tell you the bad news. As soon as they saw Captain Lang's tank, they ran away. Maybe you're back home." Diu Bin angrily grabbed Lu Kuang's shirt. "I'll ask you again, where is my mother?" Le Suyen and a group of people slowly approached Diu Bin, Little Dew family. Just now you used your skills to drag Lu Kuang out from there. Now please try my trick. Dew Bin put his hands in his pockets and turned to look at her. So please bother the four ladies. Lu Kuang is sitting on the ground. What do you want? Le Suyen raised his hand and ordered, bringing people here, behind him. She has two guards dragging one of Lu Kuang's juniors. He keeps screaming, Mr. Kuang, help me. Le Tiu put the phone screen in front of him, touched his head with one hand, come here and tell me, have you ever seen the woman on this phone? He immediately denied, I have never seen him. Seen. Le Tiu glanced coldly at him, too embarrassed to answer wrongly, I'm already useless. Her two fingers flicked towards his neck. A cracking sound rang out. His neck bones were broken. The guy fell to the ground with a thud. Team leader Lang turned around and ordered the next person to come up. A guard was holding a gun in one hand and escorting Lu Kuang's other junior in the other hand who was blinded. He quickly declared, I met him, don't kill me, he's there. The basement of the club, I'll take you guys there. Le Suyen praised him, this kid is smart, team leader Lang. Then please go with him to take her out. Team leader Lang respectfully bowed his head. Yes, Miss Nun. Looking at the scene in front of him, Dew Bin was bewildered and blushed. He did not expect that Miss Nun still had this kind of trick. Tru Kai lit a cigarette and told him. Otherwise, why would I be so afraid of her? Fourth Miss Nun is a famous expert in her profession. Kwang Nyat Sun couldn't even stand a single move in her hands. Tru Kai turns on gossip mode. Tell you this story. I feel that team leader Lang definitely likes the fourth lady Nun. Dew Bin snaps his fingers. Yes, I feel the same way. Dew Bin said nothing as he watched the ambulance drive away. Le Suyen put his hand on his shoulder and comforted him with a few words. She was given sleeping pills. It's no big deal. You can rest assured that she'll be handed over to the doctor. She looked at Lu Kuang standing behind and said loudly, we should think about how to deal with this, boss Lu. He was startled and retorted. He also took it away and destroyed my money. This matter is considered settled. Le Suyen turned around completely. Stroking his hair, he gracefully said, how could I finish the payment? I had to compensate the Little Dew family for the emotional loss. Group leader Lang lost patience and kicked him down on his face from behind. You seem unconvinced. He took out a seal from Lao's trouser pocket and informed Le Suyen, the fourth Miss Nun, that he had found this on him. Le Suyen played with the seal in his hand, raising his voice, Boss Lu, you are so generous. Since you have given me the seal, then I won't be polite anymore. She raised her eyes, with a sinister smile, listing the pawn shop, the bar in the West City, the underground casino in the East City, the sauna center in the South City. I remember that business wasn't too bad, right? I think it's very appropriate to use them as compensation for the Little Dew family. Her secretary diligently wrote it all down. After Lu Kuang heard the list, he became even more panicked and asked, you guys, do you want to rob me of my money? Le Suyen looked innocent and turned to ask team leader Lang, robber me, team leader Lang. He felt, am I doing this like a robber? He denied it and shook his head. How could it be like a robber? What you did was clearly like a bandit. Dew Bin grabbed him and did not say much to Le Suyen, the fourth lady, about business matters. You can just discuss with the Kai family. Now I want to take Lu Kuang to a place. Le Suyen gently nodded and asked with concern, do you need me to send group leader Lang to protect you? Dew Bin threw Lu Kuang into the car. The old man screamed in pain. He put one hand in his pocket and answered, no need, this place is bothering everyone. Dew Bin took him to Bak Thien, where she met Tun Hoang. Tran Tiu Thien was surprised and covered her mouth with her hand. In front of her was Lu Kuang kneeling on the floor in a daze. Dew Bin stood next to him and reminded her, I promise you, I will help you retaliate, don't you remember? Tran Tiu Thien is grateful to you. She thank you, master. Dew Bin went out, closed the door, left behind a sentence, Tiu Thien, the rest is left to you. She looked at him emotionally, not knowing what to say. She could only keep saying, thank you. Owner. Tran Tiu Thien seductively flipped her hair, her face gloomy, and she walked closer to him. Around her was a thick black aura. Tran Tiu Thin's cold voice said, "Okay, now we're the only ones left here. Lu Kuang, do you still remember me?" He was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. He only knew that you were Tun Hoang's person, so he screamed, "You're just Tun Hoang's call girl." Tran Tiu Thin's hand slapped Lu Kuang's face hard. His face contorted and he spat out a large mouthful of blood. His face was swollen. Lu Kuang angrily shouted, "I only touched you twice. You are a girl for sale. Why are you pretending to be noble?" Tran Tiu Thin slapped him hard again on the face, grimaced and said loudly, "At first because he wanted to rob the Lu family's house. He killed a couple and raped their daughter. Do you still have it? Remember?" Blood fell from his face drop by drop, drop by drop. Lu Kuang stirred and stammered, "Hey, this was many years ago." The small drops of blood that fell gathered together into a large pool of blood. He bowed his head and asked Tran Tiu Thin in confusion, how could she know? Then Lu Kuang suddenly raised his head, turned pale and recognized her, her face. I knew she was the daughter of that family. From inside the room came Lu Kuang's pitiful groan. Diu Bin sat with his arms crossed outside the door, smiling softly. After a while, the door of the room opened and Tran Tiu Thin absent-mindedly walked out. "She came to me," Diu Bin immediately asked. "Revenge is over." Tran Tiu Thin clasped her hands in front of her chest, timidly replied, "Thank you, master, if it weren't for you." She suddenly rushed to hug him, stammering somewhat loudly and saying, I'm afraid." Diu Bin looked at her with pity. "Tiu Thin." Suddenly there was a scream that made them both startled. What were they doing? "How long has Mak Tigao been standing at the door, angrily stomping his feet?" "Diu Bin, you've disappointed me so much." She turned around and ran away, leaving behind only a curse. "Diu Bin, you idiot." I didn't have time to react and panicked and shouted to stop her. "Tigao, don't go. You listen to my explanation first." Diu Bin turned his head apologetically and said to Tran Tiu Thin, "Tiu Thin, I'll go first. I'll explain to you later." She smiled and gently urged him, "Go, don't make Miss jealous." In a corner of the hallway, Diu Bin's voice was heard calling, "Tigao, don't go." He ran faster, grabbed her wrist and begged, "Tigao, please listen to my explanation. Mak Tigao is so angry, she wants to run away. You don't listen. Diu Bin grabbed her hand and gently placed it on his chest, earnestly pleading, "Tigao, I'm wrong. If you're angry then just hit me." Mak Tigao stopped struggling. "Listening to me begging will only hurt you." Cold, she crossed her arms, not happy to ask what his fault was. "So tell me, where did I go wrong?" Diu Bin turned pale, poked his fingertips together, stammered out his mistake. You and Tiu Thin shouldn't have done that." She turned her head, flipped her flowing hair, still annoyingly warning him, "So will you do that again with her in the future?" Diu Bin immediately raised 3 fingers, sincerely apologizing, I seriously swear to Mak Tigao. Diu Bin. Guarantee you. There will absolutely be no next time." She turned around and walked away. I reluctantly believed him for once. Diu Bin followed behind, breathing a sigh of relief. It was good that my anger was gone. While Mak Tigao was walking, she stopped. She suddenly remembered something. That's right. There was still the main thing. He didn't understand anything, so he stopped too. Mak Tigao beamed and turned around and said, "Grandpa is looking for you. Please come with me." At the Mak family, in the hallway, Diu Bin's voice rang out. "Tigao, do you know what Mr. Mak was looking for me for?" She frowned slightly and replied, "Grandpa didn't tell me, but I overheard the conversation between Grandpa and 2 Miss. It seemed like they wanted to negotiate with you about Mr. Chu Lu's property." Diu Bin was thinking nervously, probably wanting to ask how he should handle Lu Kuang's assets. He suddenly asked, making Mak Tigao startled and looked over, "That's right. Did your brother Tigao talk about the issue of dividing his assets?" Mak Tigao gently nodded, "Yes. Grandpa said he left all his assets to me. Even the will has been drawn up." Diu Bin asked her again, "Who knows about this?" While Mak Tigao was walking, she lightly stomped her foot, then stopped, although this story had not been made public. Du Bin turned back and heard her continue. Mak Ti-gao paused for a moment, but his father, second uncle, third uncle all knew everything. Anyway, you already know about my family's situation. After hearing her answer, Du Bin stepped back and said, Ti-gao, I suddenly remembered something very important. I can't go see your grandfather today. She cried out in shock, watching him run away. In Kai Jia's office, the door was opened. Du Bin spoke up and suggested, Kai Jia, I have something to tell you. Tru Kai waved his hand at the men in the room. You guys go down. Little Du family, come sit here, drink tea and talk. The others immediately went out and the door slammed shut. Du Bin sat down on the chair, not saying much, and got straight to the point. Kai Jia, I'll be honest. You've always been hiding behind wanting to destroy me. Tru Kai heard his words and was so uneasy that he didn't pay attention to spilling the tea. It was Ti-gao's father, Mak Lisuyan, right? He forced a smile and raised his head to ask Du Bin, Little Du family, why do you think like that? He seriously answered, Ti-gao told me. Du Bin recounted everything between Mak Tong and Mak Ti-gao and his brother. Mr. Mak established a legacy. After his death, all the assets belonged to Ti-gao. Coincidentally, Ti-gao's body had a strange disease. Therefore, Mak Lisuyan wanted to use his ghost to control Ti-gao, thus controlling Mak Jia. But in the middle, I appeared again. I changed Ti-gao's destiny, sabotaging his plans. Tru Kai spoke up and wanted to speak, Little Du family, but you stopped him. Kai family, please listen to me. Du Bin continued to tell about the relationship between Mak Lisuyan and the great masters. So first there was Master Trong, Master Tian, then there were Gun Koi Lak, Master Lu. They were all from Mak Lisuyan. Come and kill me. Du Bin remembers asking Tru Kai to investigate for him. Last time I asked him to investigate Gun Koi Lak's villa, you already knew he was Mak Lisuyan's man, right? Tru Kai helplessly bowed his head and admitted, it was not wrong. Du Bin disappointedly said, Kai family, I have always considered you a good brother, but you lied to me. In the classroom, Du Minvin's voice rang out. Du Bin, he pointed out, signaling to me. Ui Tri is looking for you. Du Bin suddenly asked, Ui Tri, why is he looking for me? Du Minvin showed an unpleasant expression and said, Ui Tri is currently the coach of Super Tan Tin High School. He came to invite you to participate. Selects new students. He scratched his face, forced a smile and asked again, Super New Star High School, while thinking, surely it's not some strange idol group, right? When Du Minvin heard him say that, he raised his fists in anger. Super Tan Tin High School is a command camp established by a joint venture of big families, recruiting only top-level talents. Students at this school don't need to take college entrance exams, they can go directly to key universities. Lieutenant Tri gave you a good opportunity to take me, you know? Du Bin sat there listening, but after a moment of silence, he only let out a scream. Du Minvin saw that he only reacted like that, so he urged him, if you know, then go quickly, don't let Ui Tri wait too long. Du Bin was calm as if nothing happened, waved the meal card in his hand and said, I have to go eat now, if there is anything, wait until I finish eating and then talk. When Du Minvin saw that he didn't want to go see Ui Tri, he angrily called out, this kid. In the cafeteria, there was a long line of students waiting to get food. Ui Tri walked up to him and said, Du Bin, Co Tan High School is a good opportunity, you definitely won't participate. Du Bin didn't answer him at all, but asked the opposite, if it's really a good opportunity, why do you want me to participate? He used his chopsticks to pick up a piece of meat from the rice tray, slowly said, in here. Conspiracy, or, Du Bin looked up and slowly finished, someone asked you to invite me, and you can't refuse that person, right? Ui Tri sat down and frowned coldly. He asked Du Bin directly, if you already know everything, then I'll tell you straight, what did you have to do to agree? He still thought uncomfortably, this kid's guess is really good, if it wasn't for Mr. Mak asking me, I wouldn't have bothered to come and invite you. Du Bin didn't answer, he finished his bowl of soup. Once the button was down, he put the bowl of soup on the table and let out a sigh of contentment on his face. After eating, Du Bin raised his finger to suggest that if you apologize to me, I will think about attending a certain high school. Ui Tri immediately stood up, bowed 180 degrees and said loudly, Du Bin. Sorry, causing him and the people around him to look over in surprise. Du Bin stood up and nodded with satisfaction, seeing that Ui Tri had such sincerity. You leave a sentence, I will think about participating in the selection. Du Minveen approached and advised him, Ui Tri, do you really want to let that kid go to Supernova High School? That guy is not simple, I advise you to think of a way to make him fail the exam. Ui Tri stood up, straightened his clothes and asked, if he fails the exam, how can I take revenge? Du Minveen explained in confusion, I just want to be good for you, if he gets into the Supernova school, I'm afraid it will affect your future. Ui Tri curled his lips with a sinister smile and said, Minveen, when did your heart become so small? Actually, this selection is for a mission, a special mission. 2 weeks later, at the base's training ground, the instructor's shouts echoed throughout the field. Quick, quick, run for me, run quickly, don't pretend to be dead. Du Bin ran steadily in the front row. Trong Triet was breathing heavily from running too hard. Coach Su angrily shouted for him, Du Bin, to get out of the line. He didn't understand what was going on. He stepped out of the line and replied, Yes, Coach Su. He was asked angrily, Why did you help Trong Triet just now? Du Bin calmly replied, I saw him almost fall so I came to help him. Without waiting for him to finish his sentence, he interrupted, Do you think you are very great? Coach Su pointed at him. Criticism, this is training, you all are a team. Your actions will affect others, do you understand? Team Du Bin, Trong Triet, continued to run another 5,000 meters. He assigned the task of supervising the Du Bin team to Niem Diet then, you supervise them, he nodded, yes, coach. The two continued to run away. Trong Triet panted and apologized, Du Bin. Sorry, I implicated you. Du Bin happily did not blame you. It's okay, don't think too much. Niem Diem then seized the opportunity. Fontanelle they said Du Bin, Trong Triet, you two talked to each other just now. This round doesn't count. Let's start from the beginning. He raised his voice and ordered, run quickly, don't hesitate. The person standing next to him even jeered in a low voice, Niem Diek Than. You're really toxic. You purposely waited for them to finish running a lap before speaking. You're a bunch of country people. You should teach them a lesson. Trong Triet was unwilling and protested. The coach only told him to supervise, so why did he arbitrarily punish us? Niem Diek then turned up his nose and looked down at you. You say one more sentence, I will let you run another 5,000 meters, do you believe it? Du Bin walked over and patted Trong Triet's shoulder, shook his head and said, Trong Triet, stop it, be patient and calm down. He softly called him, Du Bin. Niem Diek then maliciously pointed his finger at them, punishing the two of them. Du Bin spoke on his own again, he and Trong Triet each added 5,000 meters. Trong Triet couldn't hold back his anger, rushed over and punched him hard in the face, beating this evil dog who relied on his power to death. Niem Diek then was beaten so that one side of his cheek turned red. He couldn't stand still and staggered back a few steps. Being supported by two people behind him, he cursed bitterly and dared to hit me. You guys hold him back for me. Niem Diek Than's group of juniors rushed to fight with Trong Triet, and in the chaos, pitiful groans were emitted. As for him, he stood aside and gave orders, hold it back for me, let me hit it. Du Bin frowned worriedly, the result became like this. He looked at Du Minveen standing behind Niem Diet then who was smiling proudly, thinking for a moment, it seemed like he had to ask Du Minveen for help. Du Bin opened the system and clicked on the button to buy Demon Talisman. Niem Diet Than's group of juniors was large and quickly held Trong Triet back. He struggled and shouted, let go, let me go. Niem Diet Than, if it's good then come solo. Niem Diet Than smiled contemptuously at him, responding, what era is it? You still solo, you stupid idiot. His leg hurt, he was about to kick Trong Triet, and cursed him, "You go die." Suddenly a voice shouted to stop me. Niem Diak then stopped, turned around and asked angrily, "Who was shouting?" A dark stream of air flew out. Du Minvin's face darkened, his whole body was covered with veins, his face said fiercely, "I'm screaming." Niem Diat then angrily asked, "Du Minvin, what do you mean?" His whole body exuded a black aura. He grimaced and aggressively ordered, "I tell you to let him go." Niem Diat then curled his lips and smiled contemptuously, "Du Minvin, I just gave you some dignity. Do you really consider yourself a big person? Dare to talk to me like that?" Niem Diat then's juniors whispered to each other, not understanding, weren't Du Minvin and Boss Niem on the same side? Why would they help Trong Triet? Hey, I don't really understand. He angrily said, "Du Minvin, do you think I'm afraid of you?" Du Minvin raised his voice in challenge, "So what do you want to do?" Du Bin stood watching and urged a friend to go call the coach. Something was about to happen. "Quickly go call the coach." The other friend was a bit surprised when he saw what he told him to do. Niem Diat then was angry, raised his fist at him, worried about the money. "Today he will beat you too." Du Minvin easily restrained his fist. He used his strength to break Niem Diak Than's arm. Niem Diat then screamed miserably, held his arm in pain, kicked Du Minvin's body, cursed "what the fuck," and rolled over. He was kicked and fell to the ground. The black gas around his body immediately dispersed. The coach ran from nowhere and shouted, "What are you doing?" Niem Diat then, "What are you doing?" He turned pale and thought, "Why is the coach here?" Du Bin stood up and seriously reported to the coach. He told Niem Diak then to dare to kill us while jogging, but as a result, he took revenge and caused trouble. Du Minvin couldn't bear it anymore, so he said a few words for us. He attacked Du Minvin again. Coach Su gritted his teeth and thought but didn't say anything. He clasped his hands behind his back and turned to ask, "Niem Diat then, is it true?" He bowed his head obediently and admitted his mistake. "Coach, it was my fault." But in his heart he thought uncomfortably. His mind was dizzy. "That's why I fell for this guy Du Bin's plan." Du Minvin stood up and rubbed his head, not understanding what was going on, thinking, "Why am I lying on the ground?" Coach Su ordered, "You guys, take Du Minvin to the medical room." He ordered punishment for Niem Diat then. "Niem Diat then, you also went to the medical room." After being cured, he went back to the dormitory to write a review. If he didn't finish writing, he couldn't eat. He stood up straight and replied, "Yes." Trong Triet walked over to him and whispered, "Du Bin, it's clearly written in the discipline book that people who fight on their own will have to drop out of school. Isn't the coach doing that protecting Niem Diak Than?" Du Bin also nodded in agreement. This Coach Su always raised his head and stepped down, because he saw that Niem Diak Than's family had power, so he did so. Coach Su got angry and shouted at them, "What are you two standing there for? Have you finished running 5,000 meters yet?" They turned around and continued running. He was so angry that he trembled and clenched his fists. Coach Van walked over, looked at Du Bin who was running penalties and asked, "That guy is Du Bin, right?" "It's just like what young Master Ui Tri said. This guy really has some sinister tricks." Coach Su frowned and asked him, "Coach Van, I think that Du Bin is very good. Maybe we should assign that task to him." He curled his lips sinisterly in agreement. "Coach Su, I felt what you said makes a lot of sense. Now I'm going to send the application to my superiors." A teaching assistant heard the conversation between the two and rushed to intervene. The two coaches, "I'm afraid this can't be done. Such a difficult task was assigned to a child."